Let's do it.
Oh my god, I'm so tired. You know, it was one of those days when I knew that this was the final hurdle before I could start my weekend and prolonged week of vacation. But
Exactly. Don't look at it as a hurdle. Look at it as a
checkpoint.
Yeah, sure.
he checked me going into the weekend, see if I've got the juice to keep going. Welcome fans. This is the third episode of the Far Out Flicks podcast. I'm Andrew, and this is my co-host.
I am Braden.
So welcome back. For those of you who are joining us again, last week we did In the Mouth of Madness, which was fucking awesome. This week we're going a little bit of a different route.
Going a different route. Well,
far out. Still far out.
Far out. You can't have far out flicks without talking about David Lynch.
No, and when I think of far out flicks, David Lynch is pretty much one of those big name directors that pops into my mind immediately. Him and Cronenberg are like the first two that just like jump out at me.
Yes, of course.
To the point that there's an adjective that people use, Lynchian.
Lynchian,
to
exactly.
describe kind of like surreal and dreamlike films.
He basically, in many ways, has defined American surrealism in films.
I'd agree 100%.
And he is kind of the hallmark, or what is it, benchmark of... He is kind of the benchmark of... that you could compare other films to, because...
Sure, I mean, like, with, Eraserhead, obviously, is, like, truly one of the more bizarre films, especially for when it was made.
Exactly.
Fucking Dune, which was the film prior to this, which didn't do great at the time, but I still think it's pretty sweet. And we talked about it a little bit earlier. We're both big fans of Dune, Frank Herbert's Dune.
Yep.
You're actually rereading it right now, right, Brandon?
I am rereading it. And I'm probably on page 7.
There we go, deep.
Well, I really like Game of Thrones. I've read Dune before.
Yep.
I really love Game of Thrones.
Sure, well...
Kind of sad to see that go. And basically Dune is like...
Not just go, but go very poorly. But we don't have to get into that. That internet's already hated on Game of
He better
Thrones.
finish those damn books.
Dude, before his fat fucking ass has a heart attack from all the Coney Island hot dogs.
Well, there was a direct...
lack of activity that his life consists of.
Oh yeah, that guy has the life. He's like not even trying to write any more books. He's like, I'm rich now. Who cares?
Yeah, but like...
He's lost the drive.
What a dick move to not finish the series.
He's
or like
trying,
leave it in somebody else's hands. Like,
how hard.
You left it to D&D to like, figure out the ending, and look how that turned out, literally.
Well, there's a direct correlation of when Game of Thrones started getting shitty and when
they ran out of source material.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. But anyways, we're not here to talk about Game of Thrones and not how bad the final season was. We are here to talk about Blue Velvet.
Blue Velvet.
So, yeah, back to where I just kind of got derailed. But Dune, 1984.
Yep, that's it.
Was a big critical flop at the time. I still enjoy it. It's not very true to Frank Herbert's novel per se, but it's still enjoyable and it's still fun. I got some fond memories of seeing that.
It's fun. I'm looking forward to the new one.
Yeah, and we'll probably do Dune as we get closer to Denis Villeneuve's
probably eventually. I would hope
chapter.
I would hope we'll do all of David Lynch's because,
there's only so many movies out there. We're gonna have to dip into just about everything David Lynch did to really keep this podcast going season after season.
This seemed like a good place to start because it's not totally impenetrable.
No.
Like, this one has a story that you can follow pretty easily.
Yeah, for something that is kind of surreal and kind of like shrouded or coated in dream logic, it's like much more digestible than, like, let's say Lynch's kind of like magnum opus Mulholland Drive.
Sure. So let's give a little background about David Lynch.
Yeah, let's talk about... Braden, why don't you take this one away?
I did a little bit of research on David Lynch.
He did his homework. I'm copying.
And So basically, David Lynch was a born artist. Like in high school, he started painting, and that was his whole thing. He was like, I'm going to be a painter. I want to be a painter. And then he went to art school, and he really had no interest in making films. He kind of just fell into that, like, after college, I think. Well, I think he may have dropped out. But anyway, he ended up
School's
making
not
a
for smart
student
people.
film that I guess got some attention, and he got a grant. And that's basically how he was ultimately able to make Eraserhead. And
It's a big step onto the scene.
that's a big step onto the scene. I mean, Eraserhead is one of those art films that it's amazing that anyone has even heard of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like culturally significant enough that like, if you're smoking weed in college, you're probably gonna stumble upon it. Yeah, Eraserhead is just like art housey enough that like, if I was like to sit down and watch it with my mom, she would just assume that I'm doing drugs. Uh,
We don't do drugs.
we don't.
Only weed.
I wish we could. I wish we could. Official
Yeah.
stance. Do more.
If you know anyone, drop us a comment.
Yeah. Always looking for the pusher, man.
But so after Eraserhead, the Elephant Man. Have you seen the Elephant Man?
I embarrassingly have not seen the Elephant Man. I've
the
seen Wild at Heart, but I've not seen the Elephant Man.
Watch the Elephant Man. The Elephant Man holds up. That is a great movie. It's a really great movie.
Bookmark to come back to that.
And that one's not as surreal. He kind of, I mean, it's a surreal topic. If you haven't seen it, I won't spoil it for you yet.
But surely most of our listeners know like who the Elephant Man was. I mean, if you were a '90s kid and ever had a Guinness Book of World Records, there was definitely a mention of the Elephant Man there. Or if you've been, I want to say Ripley's, believe it or not, had like a wax sculpture of him.
Yeah, sounds about
One
right.
of the Ripleys. I mean, they're like all shut down now because like
Speaking of the Elephant Man,
The
have you
market's
ever
not
seen
there.
the movie Mask? Not The Mask.
Yes, I've seen Mask.
Mask would be a good one to cover in a future episode.
I don't know if it counts as far out, man. Like
It's far out. That is about
just
as-
because the main character has got like literally the most unfortunate face ever to be captured in a major Hollywood film does not make it far out.
It's pretty good.
It is a good movie. I'm not saying it's not a good movie, but
So after Elephant Man came Dune. Both of those were more of straight cinematic style, I would say.
yeah,
I mean, he was
Linear
attempting to
plot.
go mainstream there a little bit. And then after Dune was a terrible failure, at that point, a commercial failure. At that point, he said, "I'm just gonna do what I want. I'm gonna go back to my art school roots." And apparently, actually, he had written this script in the late '70s and had been shopping it around for a while, and no one wanted to touch it. None of the major studios, because it's just so violent and fucked up.
yeah. There's some content that again I don't know if I would sit down and watch this one with my mother. Depends on your relationship with your mother. My mother would not enjoy this
I
personally.
mean, it depends on
But it's a damn good movie. Kind of going back to like the artsier aspects of it. So something that I particularly like about David Lynch's works or his more Lynchian works at least, is that like he doesn't. Nothing is surface level, like he's not going to spell it out for you, and that there's like some kind of satisfaction or like kind of like, yeah, I guess satisfaction or beauty in like having to like unearth what the artist is trying to present you
sure
through some kind of like
symbolism
and layers. It's like you got to put it together yourself, and like in that there's more of a reward than just like watching Iron Man fucking beat Ultron or whatever.
Exactly, and I'm not sure we can unpack all of this just because it goes pretty deep. But
It's not like we went to fucking film school or anything,
Exactly, and it's also not like, I don't know. It seems like he's got some issues. If you watch this movie, the fact that someone The fact that someone wrote this script means that someone has some issues.
They birthed it from the ether of their mind, you know. But so some of the artsier components, there's a lot of like use of color, and you know, I'd almost call it vaporwave, but it's 100% not, because like the film's almost difficult to place what timeline it's in or what time frame it's in. You know, I think that there are some. It is in the 80s, but like ultimately a lot of it
could be in the 50s.
It could be in the 50s. It
could be in the 30s. Like you don't. It's timeless in that way.
Yeah, I mean, like other than like maybe the drug use.
And in fact, the cars they drive or even like have a classic feel. I
sure, in the town that this takes place in, the fictional / real town of Lumberton, North Carolina.
Shout out to North Carolina.
North Carolina,
come on and raise up. Take your shirt off. Spin it around your head.
Like a helicopter.
Kind of like a helicopter.
Lots like a helicopter. Lumberton, North Carolina, which is a real place in the southeastern kind of sand dunes region of the state.
And you have some experience with Lumberton.
Oh fuck, right? I do. Not trying to.
I've never been there.
Not trying to
sounds like
offend or upset anybody from Lumberton, but I kind of grew up there. My dad and my stepmom lived in Lumberton, and Lumberton has its charms, but it's also, you know, it's got its not charms as well, and it's like a maybe okay place to get stabbed. If that's what you're looking for.
It's an okay place to get stabbed.
Okay place to get stabbed.
I'm looking for a great place to get stabbed, though.
Well, it's
probably also Lumberton.
I mean, also Lumberton, but Lumberton's not all bad. It's got its charms. Ultimately, the opening scene, you see like a big kind of like waterfront, almost like portish, like side of a downtown area, and that is ultimately not Lumberton.
That's Wilmington.
That is Wilmington.
Which Wilmington is the East Coast kind of film studio.
Yeah, or at least it was for a long time before North Carolina had the whole HB2 scandal and drove all of our fucking Hollywood, all of our Hollywood business down to Georgia. Thanks, wonderful politicians of North Carolina.
What was the HB2? Was that the fucking
it was the bathroom law, man. It was like, you know, the dumbest thing North Carolina has done in recent memory. But
I mean, I'd feel uncomfortable if there was a lesbian standing next to me at the urinal. I'm just saying.
I would be nothing.
What about my rights?
I'd be impressed personally.
Oh yeah, Wizinator.
So lumber. It's got another name when chicks use it. The Wizinator is what you use to pass drug tests.
That's right.
It's
what is it
it's
called?
like the sheepy or something. Shiwi. The
yeah,
shiwi. The shiwi is like a funnel and a hose.
Cut all of this.
No, it stays. I demand it stays. But so Lumberton, as depicted in this film, at the beginning is like extremely picturesque. It's like fucking Pleasantville, pretty much.
It is so the opening scene. It's all colorful. There's people mowing their yards. There's roses.
Yeah.
Picket fence.
Yeah, I mean, people like on a fire truck waving at the camera.
And then someone just immediately has a heart attack and dies. A horrible. Or no, he doesn't die.
No, he doesn't.
Someone just immediately has a heart attack.
Or a stroke. I don't know. He's like clutching his neck. It's something. Some kind of issue. I think it's a stroke. Pretty sure it's a stroke.
Something.
I think it's a stroke. But either way, serious medical issue. Q, our main character, Jeffrey Beaumont, played by Kyle MacLachlan, who is featured in a number of other Lynch's works.
He's a David Lynch mainstay.
Namely Twin Peaks, which is just the best.
It's the best. And he's also in Dune.
Oh, fuck,
He's the main character in Dune.
Dude, I had totally forgotten that until you said that.
And it is interesting because I was watching a documentary about David Lynch in preparation for this episode. Mm-hmm. With a lot of like footage of a young David Lynch. Kyle MacLachlan actually
they look alike.
Looks like he's like a more handsome David Lynch. He's like a movie version of a David Lynch.
Well, I don't want to call David Lynch not handsome, but...
No, David Lynch is a sexy man.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because David Lynch, and every time I've ever seen him, his hair is going straight up.
Yep.
He was not born that way. In the younger footage, there is definitely two eras of David Lynch's life when his hair goes down, and then when he totally went insane and his hair goes
from then
up.
on, forevermore.
And once his hair went up, shit got really weird.
Yeah, and we love it.
And I would call Blue Velvet maybe the transition phase. His hair is kind of just going.
Well, again, he had done Eraserhead, and that's like almost the Eraserhead look, you know.
True. Eventually, he became that character.
I mean, that's not such a bad route, you know. I wish I could become a fictional character that I write.
Not to get off on a total tangent, but you know how in Eraserhead he has like a mutant baby?
Yep.
One time I had a dream that my friend and his girlfriend had a crazy deformed baby with one leg.
Easy now.
And I went to their apartment. I went to their apartment. This is a fucked up David Lynch type dream.
Yeah, sure.
I went to their apartment. They had moved out. And I was like, but they'd left all this stuff. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go through their stuff, take what I want. And then I heard a noise from the closet, right?
Mm-hmm.
A baby crying.
Oh, no.
And I go to the closet, and I open the closet, and a one-legged baby starts hopping towards me.
That's awful.
It was freaking terrifying.
What did you do?
I think I've got the fuck out of there. But in real life, I would have kicked the shit out of it.
Yeah. That's what I was hoping the answer was. But so anyways, a picturesque opening. We do see the main character's father have some kind of serious medical issue, stroke. But as he's like, you know, laying on the ground, that's when we cue in Jeffrey coming to visit him.
It is interesting. An interesting choice to start the film that way. The father really does not play much of a role in the film. He just...
I don't know if he has any speaking parts
just
other
hospitalized right away.
He has one speaking part at the end, I think, and he like calls out to Jeffrey at the. But we're getting ahead of ourselves as we always do. From the intro, were there like any colors that specifically stuck out to you? Obviously, the intro with the credits, intro credits, opening credits, whatever my brain is trying to say.
There was a blue velvet curtain, right?
Oh yeah. It's like the title of the film right there.
Exactly, that's a major theme. But then right after that, I think it shows a white picket fence with some
Well, it
roses.
opens in the blue sky and pans down to the very vibrantly red roses.
The beginning is very vibrant and happy, and the world is a beautiful, happy, friendly, safe place.
But then it kind of transitions into that into the whole view, and it goes beneath the surface and just
into David Lynch's mind, the dark corners.
Yeah, and below the surface, it's like all the beetles or roaches or whatever gross insects are writhing on top of each other, which I think is like, you know, kind of one of the main underlying themes is like kind of the seedy underbelly of this picturesque town.
Sure, absolutely. And then, so in the next scene, you see Jeffrey Beaumont, the main character. He's back in town from college.
Yep.
So he's just visiting. He's walking through shitty-ass Lumberton. He's like in a junkyard or something. But really, it's just someone's
It's actually the most accurate depiction of Lumberton throughout the whole film.
There's tires and, like, bottles and shit.
Yep, spot on.
And also, so he's walking along, and he finds an ear on the ground. Just an ear in the grass, covered with ants.
And mold.
Also
or something
an accurate
rot.
depiction of Lumberton.
Yep.
I'd
imagine. Zing, Braden, nice. Now you're getting into it.
So like any good citizen would do, he picks the ear up and takes it home.
So yeah, I mean, we got to keep in mind like CSI Miami like had not come into existence yet. True. So, you know, perhaps the average person didn't know that tampering with a crime scene by removing, you know, a severed portion of a human was a bad idea.
I mean, you don't even know that's a crime.
Maybe the cops didn't know that was a bad idea yet. I don't know. I mean, that's police work in the 80s. I feel like they were just playing it fast and loose, man.
Just like they are now.
Fast and loose.
Just like they are now.
Yeah, I mean, they got like labs now, though.
Yeah, but
apparently that's like all mostly bullshit, though.
I believe it is. I mean, fucking
CSI Miami is not a good representation of police brutality. Investigators.
So we're in the pandemic now. There's police. We're talking about real life, not the movie.
I don't know what pandemic you're talking about. I think we're done with that.
Dude, it's spiking, bro. Literally, like, South Carolina is getting hit worse than it ever has been right now.
It's, like, pretty bad to begin with, too. South Carolina, like, last state to shut down, first state to reopen. Never really closed here.
First state to secede from the Union. First state to fucking get their ass kicked, probably.
Some people could call them trendsetters.
They are. I mean, I'll give it to South Carolina.
I think the South started losing more, like, further south, and, you know, it worked its way back north.
Up.
You know, Sherman's March to the Sea and shit.
Okay.
But this isn't a history podcast.
But in general, I respect their disrespect for authority in a way.
Live free and die, man.
That's what it's all about.
Live free and die.
Even now, we're in a state of emergency currently, and they've just extended it today another 2 weeks.
Did they really?
Which it means nothing.
Yeah.
Also, it's
Life
just
never
one more
here.
thing for South Carolinians to rebel against. So
say fuck the virus.
Exactly. Fuck the virus. If I could fuck the virus, no, I wouldn't do that. It's wrong.
So Jeffrey, you know, scoops up this ear into like a paper bag that he finds on the fucking ground.
It's like a bag you would take to school. It's like a lunch bag.
No, it looks like the kind of bag that you get to cover a tall boy or 40. Is exactly what it really.
What you drinking on? Ear.
Sipping on some ear. But he scoops it up and he takes it to the police station.
And David Lynch said something interesting about this ear. David Lynch said, and this is a quote, "I don't know why it had to be an ear, except it needed to be an opening of a part of the body, a hole into something else. The ear sits on the head and goes right into the mind, so it felt perfect."
Do you think he considered, like, coring out a human asshole, or, you know,
I absolutely
lopping
think
off
he
a wiener?
Considered it. Well, if you were to stumble upon a human asshole lying on the ground, like,
aliens.
That's what I would think too.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
aliens.
Classic mutilation.
Yeah,
alien mutilation.
Yeah.
But they would abduct the whole human and leave not just the asshole.
That's the least tasty part.
That is the
I mean, I don't know. I don't have any experience.
I mean, I've had animal asshole before, and it tends to be quite flavorful. I don't mean, maybe not the best flavor, but some people like it. You've never had intestines, or?
I'm sure I've had intestines, but I feel like that's just a slight degree of separation away from
chicken
the outright asshole.
In Asia, chicken asshole is like, it's pretty popular.
Well, I wouldn't want to be culturally insensitive to anybody's culinary choices.
No, that's racist.
But it's a hard pass on the asshole for me.
Oh.
I like to eat asshole, but not like that.
Oh.
Just kidding, guys. I don't send mails requesting.
So you know what asshole tastes like.
At least human and goat, but you know everything else is up in the air.
Well, anyway, so he picked an ear. It was an ear. And what does he do with that ear? He takes it to the police station in his little brown paper sack.
Yep.
And he says, "Hey."
His 40 sleeve.
Hey, police chief, found an ear. And the guy...
He was so calm about it. Like, very, very nonchalant. Just, that's an ear.
It's Lumberton, man.
Yeah, you're right. He sees that on the daily. But yeah, the police chief is very, very nonchalant about all this. And, you know, they go down, they take it to the coroner, down in the morgue. They kind of poke around. The coroner makes the very astute point that it doesn't necessarily mean the person's dead, you know?
True.
the person could very well be alive.
They said they're gonna do. He said he's gonna do some tests, and that's the last we saw of that corner.
Yeah, I don't know how good his tests are, man. The morgue looked more like a dirty dive bar kitchen than it did a laboratory. But you know, I mean, what do I know?
I'm sure there's a lot of lazy corners out there.
I bet there's a lot of twisted corners out there, man.
He probably fucked that ear.
Dude, at least like tickled the tip with it.
I had to whisper that, but he probably fucked that ear. I mean,
He fucked that ear.
Now that's slander.
Look, they don't show it on camera. I'm allowed to interpret and imagine however I want.
The ear was beautiful, though. It had some hair still, like a tuft of hair still.
It also
attached
had
to
some
it.
like decaying like green spots, kind of like
Yeah.
like mold on deli meat, but like human ear, severed human ear.
The ear was a good choice.
It was. So yeah, again, going back, David Lynch put more thought into it than us two assholes are rambling about.
There's no getting inside David Lynch. I don't know if I want to get inside David. Apparently, he's the happiest human being ever, and it might be because he exercises all his demons with these fucked up movies.
Gets them all out.
Get him out.
If you're haunted by horrible, murderous, sexually deviant impulses, being a creative might be the route for you.
Highly sexually deviant.
Lord knows it works for me.
He forces other actors to live out his weird, sick fantasies. That's my take on
Some people would call it art. So while at the police precinct, Jeffrey notices a character that we will see throughout the rest of the film, simply known as the Yellow Man, and he is wearing a very yellow sports jacket. Kind of looks like a jerk.
He looks like a jerk.
He looks like the kind of... He's a detective, and he looks like the kind of detective that would, like, beat your ass and then slip some coke in your back pocket.
Yeah, I don't know.
Call the dogs in.
Hold your head down with his knee, or while you can't breathe. I don't know. And we're not to make light of that.
No, not at all. It's more us making fun of cops kind of being dicks. Fuck. No, we don't mean that. Again, as we said in the last episode, police work is a necessary part of society to some extent.
We're going to be talking about cops a lot in this episode.
Yeah, there's a lot of cops.
And I do want to just use
We're getting it out now.
I want to use my platform to make an official stance right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've given this a lot of thought.
Yeah, could have gone over it first, but yeah, let's hear the official podcast stance on police.
Here's the official podcast stance on police. Andrew's not part of this, but I think you might agree.
I'm kind of part of it, but... So let's hear what our official stance is.
Here's the official stance. No one wants to be a cop in America. It's not a desirable job. They don't get a lot of respect.
They don't.
A lot of people hate them. They deal with people who are fucking assholes all day long, which can turn you into an asshole.
Oh, for sure.
So they deal with the most unpleasant sector of society, criminals. So, instead of
people speeding,
I keep hearing all these protesters are saying, let's defund the police. Here's my counter argument. Fund the police. Maybe, or reallocate those funds towards training, and also maybe pay them more. Make it. Let's bring back
the factoid you see all the time on like Reddit and other online factoid aggregates is like that a lot of police departments like screen out high intelligence applicants because they suck at following orders and question shit. And like that's the wrong approach.
But is there a correlation between intelligence and just like decency? I don't know if there is.
Probably not. It's probably the other fucking direction. Like the more wildly intelligent somebody is, the more likely they are to not be decent.
Well, it is interesting because I work with a guy who used to be a corrections officer. We were having this conversation, and he said that basically they brainwashed him. they would make them do all these crazy exercise and stuff, and then when they're totally tired, they'd have to watch these quote unquote training videos.
Yeah.
Literally, they would like make them run and stuff, and then when it's classic brainwashing.
Yeah, you just exhaust
That's what they
somebody.
did at Jonestown too. Like, let them sleep 1 hour a night.
It's like what all cults do.
That's what they all do.
Yeah, starve you, wear your ass out, and then really dig deep into the reprogramming.
Exactly. But my main point is maybe instead of defunding them, allocate those funds towards more training and then hold them to a higher standard.
And with significant reform as to the expectations and
ways that reward the ones with integrity and make an example of the ones who fucking are assholes.
Okay.
It's a whole cultural shift that needs to happen.
Andrew is fully on board with the podcast's official statement on this.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
And then it ties in with this movie because we have a good cop and we have a bad cop.
Yeah. As the famous trope goes, you know, the good cop, bad cop routine. Not really applicable at all to this movie. But we see the Yellow Man. Spoiler.
And he's a bad cop.
Spoiler. He's a bad cop.
Yep.
And, you know, he kind of gives like a dickhead jerkish look at Jeffrey.
He was well cast. That guy just looks like an asshole.
He looks like, again, the kind of cop who'd beat your ass and slip coke into your back pocket afterwards. And not like in a, here, have some for later kind of way. Like I'm calling the dogs in sort of way. Anyways.
So then immediately after this, Jeffrey leaves the police station, and who does he run into?
Well, he goes to the police chief's house.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he goes there.
He goes to the police chief's house.
Which is a house I'm pretty sure I've seen in Lumberton before, actually.
Oh, yeah?
If that was indeed one of the scenes they did film in Lumberton. Which, they split filming between Lumberton and Wilmington. And we'll touch more on that later.
Sure. So this is when he meets the police chief's daughter, Laura Dern, whose character is called Sandy. Laura Dern.
Yeah, I got a crush on Laura Dern.
I'm a fan.
Yep.
I liked her in a Jurassic Park. She had that sexy paleontologist vibe.
That's like kind of the Jane Goodall vibe?
Yeah, I mean, basically.
Yeah, the Jane Goodall vibe. So he comes out and he runs into... Oh, one final note about Laura Dern, just because this is my little factoid. She was in the Widespread Motherfucking Panic music video on Avis in 1997. Because she was dating the director... At the time was dating the director of that music video, Billy Bob Thornton.
No shit. I did not know that.
Oh, yeah. All right,
I love Billy Bob.
I fucking love Billy Bob, too. But Billy Bob ain't in this movie. So moving on, Laura Dern comes on into it. You know, she kind of, like, approaches out of the darkness. And she's just, like, your picturesque American Pie, you know.
High school girl.
Yeah, it sounds real fucked up when you put that last adjective in there. But factually true, she is in high school in the film. And I instantly regret opening my mouth and starting the last 2 or 3 sentences.
Listen, she's over 18, and we're going to talk about how she's sexy a lot. So just get over it.
She was indeed over 18 for this film. But, so she approaches Jeffrey and, like, you know... Instantly, my man Jeff's macking.
He's macking. He's like, hey, babe, just talked to your dad, found an ear, let's hang out.
Pretty much.
She's like, okay, let's go.
All this has, like, I mean, you know, it very well might be because Kyle MacLachlan isn't in it, and it's David Finch's work, but, you know.
David Finch?
I said David Finch. David Lynch. Oh, I'm so fucking tired, man. David Lynch definitely has, you know, as the rest of the film, has some solid Twin Peak vibes, you know.
The whole thing, this is kind of
Twin Peaks.
David Lynch is
0.1.
finding his style with this movie.
Yep.
Up to this point, there were various experiments. The 3 movies prior to this were wildly different. this kind of cements the style. He's got the composer of this is Angelo Badalamenti, I believe is how you say his name.
That sounds right to me.
And he's also the composer of Twin Peaks, so the music is like Twin Peaks.
Yeah, it's
they
got
hang out
that
in
one
diners.
little that one drum riff towards the beginning. Yeah, there's like
there's like some weird jazz bits. A lot of Twin Peaks vibes are happening in this movie, and which I would call that David Lynch Twin Peaks vibe. It's almost like a weird, self-aware, over-dramatic. Like, you know how soap operas, they overact and it's like overly dramatic.
Sure.
There's also a lot of that in David Lynch's movies.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And it's almost like taking a soap opera and like making it more self-aware and turning it over on its head is how I feel about Twin Peaks. And there's an element of that in this film as well.
Yeah. And like to that same kind of effect, I mentioned earlier that the film kind of like is kind of rooted in dream logic, and like that's almost it plays into it, right? Like
that plays heavily into it.
Yeah.
Heavily. I think so. I have a theory we'll get into later, but the whole thing is a dream, I think.
And there is certainly cause to think that.
There is cause to think that. So as he's talking to Laura Dern, she says, "Oh, you found an ear.
Oh,
my dad's been investigating. I heard something on the police radio, or something's going on with this woman in 701 of this
she might be linked to a case that my father's investigating right now."
Exactly, and he's like, "Oh, well."
Yeah, so for whatever reason, this dude who's home visiting his possibly terminally ill father decides that like a good use of his time is to
investigate a mystery
play
of
detective.
The missing ear.
Yeah, play detective.
Which I can get down with that. I mean, I like adventures.
He could like spend some time with his father in the hospital.
Fuck that.
Yeah, hospitals kind of suck. So anyways, they kind of like concoct a plan to like have him infiltrate and spy on the place. So his father owns Beaumont Hardware in town, and he basically scoops up some pesticide pest treatment gear that they use at the store, and poses as an exterminator or pest prevention technician, if you will.
Exactly. So his whole plan, it's pretty half-baked, honestly.
Yeah, big time.
He's like, "Okay, Lord Dern, here's the plan. I'm gonna go knock on this woman's door, pretend I'm a exterminator. I will go in. 3 minutes later, you knock on the door. Pretend you're a Jehovah's Witness." Which, that's not the best disguise, because I would probably just fucking slam the door. But
yeah.
He's like, "While you distract her, I will open the window so I can sneak in later." So really this plan's just pretty wacky, because he's trying to investigate this woman that he's not even sure is connected to the ear totally.
He has no idea really what's going on, but he's got this kind of like warm lead from Sandy, Laura Dern's character, if we didn't mention that earlier. So he goes in, he's got the janitor jumpsuit on, tank of chemicals.
And the woman's pretty weird. Her name's Dorothy, and she's played by Isabella Rossellini.
And she's named Dorothy, perhaps because one of David Lynch's favorite films is The Wizard of Oz.
No kidding.
Yep.
Well, The Wizard of Oz is highly influential.
Without a doubt.
For obvious reasons.
Sure. Maybe we'll go
one
there.
Of the
it's kind of far out.
Fantasy films that may have kickstarted a lot of.
It's kind of far out, especially for the time.
And also, interestingly enough, The Wizard of Oz might all be a dream,
Ah, yeah. Look at that.
Just like Blue Velvet, in my opinion. Of my interpretation.
Perlols!
Oh, yeah. So, but before she can come knock on the door and distract the woman, some other guy comes, right?
Yeah, it's the Yellow Man.
It's the Yellow Man.
The Yellow Man.
And he's not Asian. You racist people.
Yellow Man has literally the credits listing for this character. And again, because he's wearing a yellow sports coat, he is even more Caucasian than I.
Exactly.
He's got like the JFK haircut, dude. He is like peak Caucasian.
Peak Caucasian. Everything we're fighting against right now.
I don't. Fuck. All right. Sure. So. Anyways, the Yellow Man comes through the door, and like they kind of like briefly make eye contact. They being Jeffrey and the Yellow Man, and when Dorothy kind of like ushers him back out the door, Jeffrey snags this key that's like so obviously hung on a hook. Like, one, I just don't know how I could walk back into the room and not within 30 minutes notice that key is now missing.
Sure, but this chick's all probably on drugs. We don't really. They never. There's a lot of.
There's a lot of drugs for sure in this film.
Exactly.
So.
They never show her taking them, but she's fucked up.
Yeah.
She's not in her right mind.
So Jeffrey like escapes out after getting the key, says it's all good, even though he literally just sprays the kitchen. There's a whole rest of the fucking house that he probably should have done if he was really trying to sell it. But, whatever.
Sure.
So he dips out, reconnects with Sandy, and they, Laura Dern apologizes. I tried to warn you, but he showed up, or...
Bitch, you suck at your job. You had one fucking job. No, he doesn't say that.
Also representative of Lumberton. So yeah, following Jeffrey's
quick escape,
he and Sandy meet back up, and
he's like, "Hey, want to hang out more?"
Yeah, she's feeling it. She's feeling the vibes. He's shooting his shot.
He shoots his shot. So they go to some weird jazz club.
The Slow Room.
Because of course there's a jazz club in Lumberton.
There isn't. There are some clubs, but again, it's a really great way to get yourself stabbed attending any of those venues.
Sure.
But so they go to this club, and Dorothy performs there. She's a singer, kind of like a cocktail lounge style singer. And
exactly. The chick who might be involved in this crime.
May or may not. Dorothy, at this point.
And how would you describe the way Dorothy looks?
You and I pretty much came to the exact same opinion that she looks like Tim Curry's transsexual character from the Rocky Horror Picture show. I mean, like, the hair, the fucking makeup, all of it.
She looks exactly like Tim Curry. In the
I couldn't get it out of my head after that. I mean, it's forever seared in now.
Exactly. And later she does take off her clothes, and you're almost expecting a dick.
I mean, she got that saddlebag ass, man.
Hey. Nice little handful.
Handful just hangs a little low.
Just hangs
a little low.
Hey, she was apparently she was a model before this. This was her acting breakthrough.
Yeah, models.
And speaking of this character, Dorothy, played by Isabella Rossellini, my first exposure to her was through these green porno videos, which I showed you earlier.
Yeah, strange short film.
Strange short films about animal mating behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Where she dresses up like an animal. So she's kind of a weird sexual artist. I would call her...
She wasn't before this movie. She certainly was afterwards.
Yes, indeed. So she's there singing at the club, backed by a fucking pretty good jazz band.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
She's singing the song Blue Velvet. Which Blue Velvet...
There's the title.
Which is the title of the movie. Is the name comes from this song, which was performed by Bobby Vinton in 1963.
Although its original version was a 1950 version written by Bernie Wayne and Lee Morris.
No shit.
And it was originally released by Tony Bennett, and it was a top 20 hit for him.
What?
Yep.
So my facts were totally... Fuck you, Wikipedia.
Wikipedia can suck it, but yeah, I think the version that we hear played at other points in the film
is Bobby Vinton.
Yeah, it's the 1963 version.
And she's a good singer. She is a good singer. She performs well. And up to this point, besides the ear, the film has not been that surreal. But at this point, it gets a little trippy.
Yeah, the lighting, again, like going back to the color schemes, real heavy blues and red lighting. It'll be present for the rest of the film.
Blue velvet. And then at one point, while she's singing, the whole backing band just disappears off stage.
Well, it's like it time lapses forwards or what, or not time lapses, but it jumps forwards, and it's like the rest of the band's cleared out, and it's just like the piano player. Right. At that point. But, yeah, so that's kind of like our first exposure to what she is, what she does.
She's a lounge singer. At some point around this time, Laura Dern's character does tell Jeffrey, I had this crazy dream where all of the world became darkness, and there were no robins. The whole world went dark, and it was a dark, scary place. Which is basically, this is important because it's around this time in the movie that the world becomes a dark, scary place.
Yeah, we really start to get to that underbelly.
And she says there were no robins. There were no robins.
Mm-hmm.
And then, suddenly, someone set all the robins free, and just hundreds of robins just descended on the town, and life came back, and it was a beautiful place again. That was kind of some foreshadowing, but it's about this time that it gets real dark really quick.
Yeah, so Jeffrey and Sandy leave the Slow Room Club and return to Dorothy's apartment, and Jeffrey, using the key that he swiped earlier, sneaks in and hides in her closet to see, whatever info he can get. He's still trying to play detective.
He's trying to get that info. He's not trying to be
And this is ultimately like a noir style film, which, traditionally is, detective centric.
Very important to point out. Exactly.
Yeah, detective centric, kind of how I would describe noir to people is like, single spotlight with the rain coming down and the overcoat, the trench coat and the brimmed hat. Detective smoking a cigarette, talking about dames and
Chinatown is
the
one I think of, but even that was an homage to the classic noir film.
Yeah, so this is like a surreal noir, neo noir. Another good neo noir that also kind of has a dreamlike quality to it is Brick by Rian Johnson is the director, starring the very talented Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yep,
JGL.
I enjoyed that. I had no idea that was him. He's the main character.
Yeah, he's the main character. It's a much younger version of him, but that's Joseph.
He plays a high school kid.
Yeah, absolutely. One of his earlier roles, the only other role I can think of earlier would be 10 Things I Hate About You.
Ah, interesting.
Which is very Shakespearean. We won't cover it on this podcast, but I like that movie. That's like a date night movie material right there.
There you go.
If your girlfriend doesn't want to watch fucking weird David Lynch shit,
she doesn't want to watch people trying to fuck their moms. We'll get into that.
We're about to.
We're about to get into that part.
So Jeffrey's hiding in the closet, right? And, kind of observing her. She kind of undresses. No boobs. We get no boobs, at least at this point. And while he's in the closet, there's a knock at the door. And who enters but the main antagonist of the film, Frank.
Played by Dennis Hopper.
Frank. Now, Braden, you gotta share with the audience your little insight into Frank's casting.
So, Dennis Hopper, first of all, I'll just say he's one of my favorite actors. Mm-hmm. I love Dennis Hopper. He's like a countercultural hero of mine. I mean, Easy Rider, all that stuff. In fact, I believe he directed and wrote Easy Rider, as well as starred in it. Mm-hmm. Dennis Hopper is amazing. Well, I loved him in the Super Mario Bros. Movie. He was King Koopa. Did you see that?
Yes, I've seen that.
Alright, so I love Dennis Hopper. Apocalypse Now. Dennis Hopper is a classic actor who was amazing.
Yeah, he's hit some good roles.
And at this time, we should also mention that. So, after many of his famous roles in the 60s and 70s, he was a total drunk and drug addict and just kind of a real fucked up dude, but awesome guy. I watched a documentary where, like, they just filmed him, like, taking peyote in the desert and, like, he had, like, chicks having orgies in his bathtub and stuff. He was like, yeah, man, they just come over. Like, he was true hippie. He was truly...
He lived a fucking life. He lived a life.
Dennis Hopper lived a life.
He lived a life. But,
as it oftentimes does, living the life turned into a severe drug addiction.
as it often tends to slide that
and
direction.
His whole life went to shit, and then he went to rehab, lost his career, and essentially, at the time of the filming of at the time they were casting this, he had just gotten out of rehab. He wasn't the first choice. At the end of the day, no one wanted this role because it's so fucked up.
Yeah, it's.
And then at one point,
it's fucking weird, man.
David Lynch and Dennis Hopper had arranged they were gonna have lunch together, and while they're on the phone talking about, meeting up for this lunch, Dennis Hopper says, "I have to play Frank. I am Frank." Which, if you've seen this movie, that's a terrifying thought.
It is a truly demented thing to fucking
And then the
say.
rumor goes that David Lynch, after he gets off the phone, he looks at his friend who he's with and says, "Oh shit." He says he is Frank, and I gotta have lunch with this dude tomorrow.
And I have to wonder, personally, as a big It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia fan, if the Frank Reynolds character doesn't draw like some pretty heavy inspiration from this. I see a lot of parallels between the two of them.
Very interesting.
I mean, even the bolo ties that Frank wears and the general seediness. But so Frank enters Dorothy's apartment and
Jeffrey's still hiding in the closet.
Oh yeah.
So he's
Belt
just
around
observing.
his neck, fucking jerking it.
Oh yeah, he's jerking it.
He's jerking it. But he's not. He's not. If you haven't seen the film,
He's jerking it.
he might be rubbing it. We can't see him. A self OTPHJ.
Because
he's definitely getting choked.
What's about to happen is some kinky shit.
Some deeply kinky.
So I'm pretty sure Frank just hits her right away.
Yeah, immediately.
He's
Immediately.
Don't look at me. Don't look at me.
Yeah, fucking smacks the.
It's my Dennis Hopper impression.
That's pretty good.
And then all of a sudden you see him putting this ventilator on his face.
Well, is it a?
It's not a ventilator. It's
a face mask. Just a face mask.
It's a face mask that's hooked up to a tube.
Yeah, it looks like an oxygen face mask, but this guy is.
It looks like a ventilator,
he's
inhaling some kind of weird drug.
So. Likely, I'm going to talk about this for a second.
Sure.
Likely, it's never expressly stated in the film, but it's probably amyl nitrate or poppers. For people who somehow are listening to this and are old enough to know what poppers are.
All I know is that that's connected to sexual deviancy in some way.
It absolutely fucking is. It is the orgy drug of choice for the 70s and 80s, other than some Quaaludes as well mixed in.
Fair enough.
They didn't have ecstasy yet.
Yeah.
Like Molly ecstasy, that wasn't on the scene. So what they had was amyl nitrate or butyl nitrate, or isobutyl.
Damn, how many orgies were you in, Andrew?
Well, I've been in my fair share, and let me tell you, you have more fun when you're not hosting it. You'll have to see the mess being
Then you have
created.
to clean up the next day. That's a lot of fucking cum.
If you're going to have an orgy at your house, you should plan on hiring a professional cleaning crew.
Or put plastic over every surface.
That's too. Yeah, it's just how valuable is your time, right? $65 for a cleaning crew to hit that one room hard.
And you're definitely
or
gonna
are you
need
gonna
a
spend like 3 hours like taping plastic down over your fucking couch and armchair and trying to make sure the seam work is good so the fluids can't seep into your,
exactly
corduroy lazy boy or whatever.
And you'll need some funds to hire the fixer to clean out the dead hookers.
Oh, well, yeah. You gotta call Mr. Wolf, man.
Mr. Wolf.
Mr. Wolf. Quentin Tarantino reference for the listeners who know absolutely nothing. So, anyways, Frank smacks the shit out of Dorothy, like, pretty much instantly. And Jeffrey doesn't like that. I mean, he doesn't, like, burst out of the closet and do anything like a real man would.
He starts rubbing his pants a little bit harder, but...
He's breathing harder, without a doubt. He's breathing harder. But he does look pissed off. And I think that's, like, the general interpretation of how he feels about this.
Sure. It's like anything Lynch, it's open to interpretation.
So Frank just keeps huffing whatever gaseous
and then he says...
Baby wants to fuck. Oh my.
So the YouTube clip is called Blue Velvet, Baby Wants to Fuck. We'll just let you play it. And then the description is 2 actors.
Hello, baby. Shut up. It's Daddy, you shithead. Where's my bourbon? Can't you fucking remember anything?
Dennis Hopper's performance is...
Stretch your legs.
Oh yeah, at this point he just worships her vagina.
Says baby wants to fuck.
Don't you fucking look at me.
Oh, he's taking the drug.
Awesome. It looks pretty cool.
Mommy.
Mommy loves you. Baby wants to fuck. Get ready to fuck! You fucker! You fucker! Don't you fucking look at me!
And remember, Dennis Hopper said, I am Frank. He wanted this role so bad because he doesn't even have to act.
That's just a taste of the degeneracy that David Lynch saw for for this character Frank.
Exactly.
Dennis Hopper read the script.
And he said, I have to be Frank. I am Frank.
So that gives you an idea what kind of life this man's lived.
He's done it all. And I mean, that's classic Oedipus complex.
Yeah.
And once you've done everything like Dennis Hopper has, what taboos are left to break?
Nothing other than wearing a man-sized diaper and letting a fucking woman feed your full-grown ass with a bottle. And, like, play with rattles and shit. So, on a more serious, like, thematic note, when I think of, like, the color blue, I think of kind of, like, tranquility and peace, and I think that that's ultimately what this Frank character is searching for. He's, like, obviously a bad dude with some fucking serious hang-ups. Some real fucking serious hang-ups.
He might have a few hang-ups.
But, like, that's probably what draws him to the whole mommy thing, is just, like, the idea, a thought of being, like, coddled and not fucking, having to worry about all the shitty responsibilities that he has in his life.
Sounds nice.
Yeah, just being fucking babied. And some dudes are into that, and we're not kink shaming, we're not. I want to say that before we get any more into this movie because we're gonna fucking.
I support it.
We're gonna laugh at some.
Baby
some
wants
stuff.
to fuck.
Yeah, I mean, I also,
Baby wants to fuck.
Baby wants to fuck. I think it's also worth noting that he refers to himself as daddy when he first walks through, smacks her, and then he starts, huffing the drugs, and, reverts to this baby, state or whatever.
We've all done it. I mean, there's a reason men like sucking on titties.
Everybody
There's
likes...
a reason.
No.
Fucking, you want some titties in your mouth? There's a reason.
Everybody likes sucking on titties.
Even girls.
They sucked on them too.
Oh, that's true.
I know
that's
it's true.
A good point.
It's true.
That's a good point.
Titties are great. We are pro titties here at Far Out.
Pro titties.
So, anyways, Jeffrey begins to watch some pretty depraved shit.
Yeah, Jeffrey's just in the closet the whole time watching this shit.
Again, maybe rubbing himself. And Dorothy...
I know I was when I watched it.
So, I mean, we watched it together, man. Fucking, we watched.
That's why you gotta. That's called stealth.
That's why we sit on different couches.
That's why you cut a small hole in the pocket. A small hole.
Small. You don't want your keys falling through it, but you want access. So, Frank proceeds to fist Dorothy.
Yeah, he fists her.
He fists her. I mean, we
perfectly.
David Lynch is a classy-ish man, so we don't get the full frontal fisting. That would make this.
It's implied.
But he fists her, Fister Roboto, and then he dry humps her.
Is that what happened? Was that a dry hump?
I mean,
he didn't undo his pants.
He didn't undo his pants, and there was definitely a shot when he got off of her where if his dick was out, I would have seen it.
True.
Details like that rarely elude me, Braden.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I mean, it's like, some like humiliation and weird.
I'm down with a little humiliation.
Not weird, but some sexual role play. Yeah, I don't want to say weird. Weird to me, not weird to you. Again, not kink shaming at all.
What's weird? What's weird about it?
I don't think. Well, okay, so we'll get on to like the next point, and again, not kink shaming, but it basically comes to light that Dorothy is doing all this because she's kind of like she's in like a sex slave position because Frank, this bad man, has her child and her husband.
Exactly. And I never did figure out who the husband was, though. Is that the guy who got his ear cut off?
Yes.
Oh.
So, the big spoiler, thanks, Braden. The lopped off ear is Dorothy's husband. So, basically, after, oh no, was it before Frank came in that Dorothy and Jeff fucked around a little bit?
No, it was after.
It was after, that's right.
He comes back.
He makes a noise or some shit, and she knows he's there, and she gets the fucking kitchen knife out.
Or maybe they're kind of like, oh, we
No,
skipped a whole important part.
Bro,
Fuck.
It was before, and we
It
just,
was before.
We just dicked it all up, word-wise. So yeah, before Frank barges in,
she catches him in the closet, and she takes a knife. And she's like about to suck his dick at knife point.
Well, at knife point, she makes him strip down, and then she's about to suck his dick, Horny old broad, can't control her fucking urges.
Damn it, Tim Curry. Control
Tim
yourself.
Curry, keep it in your pants. But, so they're about to get it on, kind of some like borderline rough sex. She kind of nicks him in the cheek with the knife a little bit, and that's when Frank enters to set the record straight. But after Frank gets done doing whatever he's doing with her, dry humping, banging, what?
He comes in like 5 seconds.
No more than 10. And he also, like, flops on top of her. I mean, like, saying flops like a fish, I feel like is overused, and I want to be more poetic with my words. Because he does have, like, a little arm flap in, but it's, like, kind of like if a human was trying to pterodactyl flap on top of...
There you go. That's original.
Yeah.
That's basically the sound he makes as he fucking comes in his pants.
Dude, his leather pants. It's gonna be so bad getting that out of there, man. It's not gonna be good.
They're ruined.
Yeah, go ahead, dump them in the trash. Who wears fucking leather pants? Like, hot girls, I get that, but, like, if you're a dude wearing leather pants...
Yeah, you're not fucking
you're not
poison
gay,
or some
yeah,
shit.
If you're not gay or not, like, actively doing some sexual stuff, why are you wearing leather pants? It's hot, it's sweaty, it clings to the flesh.
Sounds awful.
It does sound awful. So, anyways, after Frank blows his load in his pants... and, moves on. I
think he leaves, like, right after. Classic
guy
move.
Classic guy move. Surprised.
He's like, alright, later, I'm out.
Surprised he didn't shuffle some fucking cab change out of his fucking pocket.
He just acts totally normal, as though he didn't just call her mommy and just say, baby wants to fuck. He's just like, alright, see you next time.
Yeah. And again, this is all coerced. Like, this is effectively non-consensual. But, Dorothy kind of might have a thing for the sadomasochism.
Sure, I mean, I think that, that's getting into some sketchy territory, but...
So, anyways, Jeffrey...
Stockholm Syndrome, I believe is what it's called.
That's like when you sympathize with your captors, so yeah, I guess, maybe. I don't know. We're not psychologists. But Jeffrey relays the experience to Sandy after he leaves, after the Frank encounter, without disclosing that he had, just been holding some titty in his hand and...
Hold him.
And was maybe about to do much, much more. Sandy really tries to push, telling her father, who again is the police chief, but Jeffrey does not want.
Hell no, we can't tell the police.
Yeah, don't snitch.
The police.
Snitches get stitches.
Exactly. This is Lumberton, motherfucker.
Yeah, it's a good place.
You better not fucking snitch.
Oh yeah, fucking kill snitches. Jeffrey refuses since he does not want to land Sandy or himself in any kind of hot trouble with either the law or this possible criminal that they've just watched do some deeply depraved Oedipus-like shit.
You don't want baby coming after you. Baby wants to fuck.
And, I mean, also, like, naturally, so he's probably a little scared of this fucking psychopath gangster.
I was watching from the safety of the fucking sofa, and I was scared.
So, again, Dennis Hopper, you fucking nailed it, man.
Dennis Hopper basically makes the whole movie, for me, personally.
A perfectly erratic person. So,
I am Frank!
Oh, Frankie!
Which is also terrifying.
Terrifying.
I wonder if he also said, I am King Koopa!
Oh, man. So Jeff is still, kind of like courting this American Pie ideal, Sandy.
Oh, yeah, get that apple pie.
I mean, I think it's like heavily implied they haven't fucked. She's making him work for it.
She's making him work.
Yeah, this isn't 2020 where, people are licking booty holes on date one. This is 1984. You had to put in some serious fucking legwork to get a crack at it.
Oh, yeah, to get a crack at the booty hole?
I don't even know if that was on the table for somebody like Sandy in 1984. Now, absolutely. At date one.
Thanks for sharing.
So, like, simultaneously, while he's courting this, sweet, innocent, beautiful blonde, just American pie again. American apple pie.
Her face is a little bit weird, right?
I mean, it is acquired taste. I'm into it. He still continues to see Dorothy and develops, or not develops, begins to experiment in that rough sex.
He wants some of that mommy action.
That mommy action. Sadomasochism.
Fuck.
She like, this is consensual. This isn't coercion or extortion of sex like with Frank. They're begging for fun.
So he goes back the next night, and basically they start making out, and then she's like, they're about to fuck, and she's like, hit me.
Hit me.
And he's like, oh, I don't want to hurt you. She's like, hit me, just
Yeah,
do it.
He's real fucking vanilla right now.
And I don't know if it's the second or the first or second time they fuck, but he ends up hitting the shit out of her.
Backhands the shit out of her and like chips a tooth, right?
It looks that way.
Yeah.
He fucks her up.
I mean, I can't say for sure her tooth wasn't chipped before, but there's a close-up shot of her mouth and like one of the front teeth, whatever they're called, dentists.
He hits her, and that's out of character for our protagonist.
Yeah, this guy is your like cookie cutter white boy. 1984. I mean, I'm sure rough sex was always a thing, but like definitely wasn't being broadcast into the fucking American psyche through film.
That's the original thing, man.
Yeah, cavemen dragging their soon-to-be wives back to caves or whatever. But yeah, he smacks the fuck out of her. I don't want to say beats. He smacks the shit out of her. They passionately hump. You get a real clear shot of Jeffrey's butt.
Oh,
This
yeah.
dude does not have a follicle of body hair on him. I mean...
No.
No, and I understand people mature at different rates, but like, at fucking 16, I was showing a little bit more man meat, a little more taco meat than Jeffrey at this point.
Well, you're a hairy dude.
Well,
I would
no
say.
reason to be hurtful or nothing. But
Except maybe you're at the top of your head.
Yeah, the top of the head. I wish.
That's kind of how it goes, though.
I'd let Frank fuck me if I could have hair on top of my head.
God damn. That's a bit far.
So
that's a bit much.
Bringing it back to Frank, Jeffrey returns to the lounge and sees Frank there, and he's fucking fondling like a little blue velvet piece of fabric. And
oh yeah.
He's got this kind of like tranquil look over himself while he's watching.
And
Dorothy
once again,
sing.
she's singing Blue Velvet.
Yeah, again.
It keeps going back to this one song.
Yeah, and like the tone of the room, the lighting of the room is blue. There's some reds in the background, which also back to like the police thing, cop colors, pig colors.
Oh yeah.
Not pigs. We don't mean that.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. But
after the show,
yeah,
she leaves with Frank and his henchmen.
Yep, and
his goons.
Badass Dodge Charger.
Oh yeah, it's all the cars in this movie are good.
Yeah, they're all pretty clean. It's not like Dazed and Confused level of like car beauty, but it's still pretty damn good.
And they leave in the car, and Jeffrey decides he's going to play detective again, and he follows them.
They go to the brick building, like Frank's fucking headquarters or whatever.
Yep.
For his criminal enterprise. And basically he sees Jeff kind of like do a drug deal, meeting up with the Yellow Man. So Frank catches Jeffrey. Well, Jeff goes back to Dorothy's apartment for another bout to you smack me, I smack you.
Of course he does.
Hit me with a brick, daddy. And on his way out of the apartment, Frank shows up
He gets caught by Frank.
with his fucking goons in tow.
You do not want that to happen.
No. I mean, you wouldn't want Frank to catch you alone, but like with his hired muscle behind him, like, you know, Jeffrey's a strapping young lad, but, you know, there ain't no weaseling out of a 5-man skerbuckle. So, you know, Dorothy begs for Frank to, like, not hurt him. He's a good boy. He's just a neighbor. That's what Frank and his fucking goons call him for basically the rest of the movie. They refer to him as neighbor.
Yep.
But they say, let's go for a ride. And, you know, Jeffrey tries to resist, but ultimately is manhandled into the fucking car. He's
kidnapped, essentially.
Yep. So at this point they go and they see Frank's friend Ben at Ben's apartment.
And Ben is a weird... How would you describe Ben?
Well, for our It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia fans who like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, if you've seen the episode Frank's Little Beauties, where Frank has the beauty pageant for children and he hires the mortician to do his fucking makeup after he gets his nose all busted up. He looks like the fucking mortician from that episode.
He's almost in whiteface. He's got a lot of makeup.
Like a geisha, almost.
Exactly, and he's just a totally effeminate gay man.
Well, that's speculation, but yeah.
He's pretty effeminate.
He's pretty effeminate. I mean, he's smoking a cigarette out of one of those Cruella de Vil things, whatever the fuck those are called.
Exactly. And then...
You don't see those.
No, you don't. I mean, except with those weird girls who just wish they were 50s pinup. I think I've seen it before in Boone, maybe.
Boone's a weird place.
True.
It's a wonderful but weird place. Boone, North Carolina, if you've never been there, excellent vacation spot. I highly recommend it.
Unless you're from Florida.
Unless you're from Florida, then get fucking bent, Floridians. Stay the fuck off our mountain.
Essentially, yes.
Or learn to drive. Either would be an acceptable alternative to your current means of existing.
Correct.
But, you know, they're there. Frank says, let's drink some beer! You know, in his neurotic, fucking drugged up self sort of way.
Oh, yeah.
They get some glasses and they crack some beers and they do a toast to Ben.
You can't forget though, he asked Jeffrey, he's like, what beer do you like?
Oh,
and
oh
Jeffrey's like, Heineken. And he's like, Heineken? Fuck that shit! Pabst Blue Ribbon!
PBR.
PBR for the win.
It's got a special place in my heart. You know, we drank a lot of it when, you know, you and I were young college men.
It's like water. It just goes down like water.
It goes down like water. It is... And, God, it's probably going to piss somebody off, but it's not a good beer.
It's like awful tasting water.
It's like awful tasting water that'll get you drunk enough to bang some gross hippie
that'll slowly poison and kill you. But it won the blue ribbon.
It won the blue ribbon back at the turn of the 19th century or whatever.
Supposedly.
Supposedly. I've yet to see this actual ribbon on display, so...
How bad was beer back then?
Pretty bad. So actually there was like a lot of microbreweries in America effectively at one point, and like Prohibition fucking choked them all out and like paved the way for giant corporate fucking beer companies to move in and, you know, distribute their sort of drinkable beverages.
Thanks, America.
Thanks, America. Although Prohibition also led to NASCAR and moonshine being a thing, and that's pretty fucking cool.
I'm down with moonshine. I'm down with NASCAR.
Yeah, I'm down with both.
And I'm proud of NASCAR for banning the Confederate flag.
Highly surprising. I've been wondering, does that like extend to the parking lots, to the campers?
No, I think that they're not gonna.
Is it just in the like the stadium?
That's a good question. I think it's just in the stadium. I would imagine.
I mean, you know, I imagine a lot of the parking lots are privately owned. So
surprisingly progressive. Surprisingly.
For sure. Well, I mean, they did have that driver in like the digital racing fucking drop a hard hard R in bomb.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I forget the guy's name because I don't like care about NASCAR that much. But yeah, there was the NASCAR driver. You know, in COVID, they were doing a lot of digital racing. You know, through driving sims. The guy was streaming. And
You're driving sim? Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm dead fucking serious. And he dropped he dropped a hard N bomb.
They're basically playing what's that game, like Cruising USA or some shit?
Yeah, that's a good example. I'd say Forza 4 Horizons or Forza for like a more modern analog.
I am curious though. Did their normal pattern of victory, like, were the best drivers of NASCAR also the best at that digital racing? Or
again, I ultimately don't give a fuck enough about NASCAR to have any idea about that metric.
I'm curious though. I would imagine so.
I mean, the driving sims, modern driving sims are pretty realistic, you know. I mean, it's like you fuck up a little bit, you fuck up a lot.
Yeah.
Which I think is neat and cool, but frustrating when you're learning to play the games.
Sure.
Big fan of Forza Horizon 4. It's pretty fucking sweet. Thanks, Microsoft. But so they're there at Ben's place. You know, we get the sweet PBR reference with Frank's crazy ass. They go inside, they pour some beers, and Jeffrey fails to adequately toast Ben.
Oh, big mistake.
Yeah, they do a toast to Ben, and Jeffrey remains silent. In fairness, he didn't have a beer, so like I feel like to do the toast, you're supposed to have a fucking beer.
And also, he's just fucking kidnapped right now. Like, I'm part of the team. Should I participate? I don't know.
Should I be seen not heard, or should I take part?
But they don't take kindly to that, and then they all just beat him.
Yeah, Frank fucking whops him in the face like a little.
And so does Ben.
Ben gets him in the gut, though.
Ben gets him
in the gut hard.
And then Frank and Ben do some kind of drug deal or something.
Yeah, and they let Dorothy go in the back to see her child, who is contained in some back room of the apartment. There's also a lot of really round women in this apartment for whatever reason.
There's a lot of fat old Southern. It's interesting because apparently for the minor characters they got local actors, local extras.
Well,
and they looked like they might be from Lumberton.
I would say that fits the Lumberton bill just fine.
Oh yeah.
But Mountain Dew as a soda wasn't like widely distributed at that point, so you know maybe the population wasn't so rotund.
I don't know, man.
Probably not.
Good. They appeared to be.
So basically, while Dorothy is like visiting her son and I think husband's back there as well at this point, Ben gets up and does a lip sync of Roy Orbison's
In Dreams.
In Dreams, yeah.
Yeah. I love Roy Orbison.
Roy Orbison is
I'm a big fan.
Awesome.
He's a unique character in the history of popular music for sure.
But yeah, Ben's singing it into like a work lamp and fucking Frank starts to have a breakdown. He's enjoying it first, but then like something about the song
kind of starts crying and gets a little weird.
And he's making some strange faces. Kind of looks like he has the tism.
Maybe I am Frank.
It's not out of the question altogether. So upon Frank's breakdown, he gathers his goons as well as Jeffrey and Dorothy, and they go on a ride out to the country, I think is what he says specifically. Yep. So they go out to some, like...
They end up in like an abandoned parking lot.
It's like a quarry or something behind them.
Yeah.
And, after some kind of like terse conversation with Jeffrey that pisses him off.
Everything pisses Frank off.
He demands that he gets out and his goons, yank him out of the car and have him held up. And
then they start playing this Roy Orbison song again.
Yeah, continue.
As some slutty looking trash girl.
She looks like a lot lizard.
She looks like a weird hooker.
Lot lizard.
Exactly. She's a lot lizard.
Yeah.
She jumps up on top of the roof of the car.
Which is like, what the fuck? Dude, if any girl that I'm with ever gets up and starts dancing on the roof of my car, I'm gonna flip a shit.
Especially that car.
Yeah, that beautiful fucking Charger. Like, are you kidding me?
Especially a girl of her
Mass?
body shape.
her unique Christmas tree body shape.
And she's getting down though, and this is one of those weird surreal.
She's wearing heels too, which is like, that's not good.
It's a weird surreal David
sheet
Lynch
metal.
moment where it's like it's totally out of place and juxtaposes kind of what else is happening in the scene.
Which is, so Frank approaches Jeffrey and fucking puts like some bright red lipstick.
Yeah, he just puts lipstick all over his lips.
Yeah, not well.
This is after he takes the drug, right?
Well, I mean, at what point is he not taking the drug in
Well,
this film?
exactly.
Amyl nitrate, allegedly. And that is what makes the most sense, in my humble opinion. So he smears the fucking lipstick all over his face like a party clown and proceeds to kiss Jeffrey.
That part's a little odd.
It is.
I was scared for Jeffrey's bunghole.
Yeah. I mean, Frank, like, does a number on him, beats the living shit out of him, but, like, watching this, you know, this is the first time I've seen it in, like, 15 years since we were in high school, and the last time I saw it, my melon was totally filled with THC, and probably, like...
As it was this time.
as it might have been this time.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. You aren't here. You don't know. But
It's for entertainment purposes only.
I thought for sure that Frank was going to, like, bend him over, spread his cheeks, and just absolutely plow his poop chute.
Well, I will say this. The next scene, Jeffrey just wakes up. He's on the ground all beaten in that same parking lot. We don't know what happened.
And he goes home and starts crying. So, like, you know, for all we know, Frank did absolutely pillage his manhole.
Seems that way.
It's not expressly shown, but I feel like it might.
They kissed.
They kissed. He beat him, which we already know is kind of Frank's thing. He likes to beat the whatevers he's fucks.
Baby wants to fuck.
Baby wants to fuck. But yeah, Jeffrey returns home and basically he just starts crying.
Hey man, gotta have a good cry every now and then. There's no shame in a good cry. Especially after you've been raped.
I will say in all my research, no one ever seemed to insinuate, other than us, that Jeffrey was raped by Frank. Not that rape is not funny. We're not laughing at rape. Yeah. Rape is a terrible, horrific act a human commit against somebody else.
Exactly, and you should only do it with consent.
So after he starts to, like, you know, cry and I guess get over whatever did or didn't happen to his asshole, he kind of, like, realizes that Sandy's father's partner is the Yellow Man.
Yes, he goes to the police station. He sees the Yellow Man there. So the Yellow Man is involved with this crime syndicate in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So when Jeffrey sees the Yellow Man, he freaks out a little bit. He's like, "Oh shit, that's the Yellow Man. That is the Yellow Man." And honestly, I feel like calling him the Yellow Man in the screenplay and the script is kind of a genius move, because by calling him the Yellow Man, I feel like that adds to the surreal quality.
Sure, 100%. And
they don't give him they do give him a name, but he's the Yellow Man.
I mean, he's an important character that, like, ultimately has a fairly minor role.
Sure.
Like, or not minor role, but minor amounts of screen time and never gets given an official
I don't
name.
know if he ever even speaks.
Doesn't... You might be right about that, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But basically, Jeffrey, using his Einstein-level detective IQ, put together that the Yellow Man has been like killing off Frank's rival drug dealers and then stealing their confiscated narcotics from the evidence room. And in
You
turn, handing
need
them
a
to
yellow
Frank.
man on your team if you're gonna do some illegal shit. You need a yellow man.
Yeah, 100%. You gotta have the fucking bad cops. You gotta buy them off.
Well, that's the whole deal. Buy him off.
So Jeffrey and Sandy they go to a party. They dance. Things are starting to go good. You know, they get in the car. They're on their way home. It's looking like maybe Mr. Jeffrey's finally gonna get a shot.
He might get it. He might get it.
And then they're pursued by a car that like fucking speeds up on them and rams their tailgate. Which again, like all these cars are so fucking beautiful, and it's like watching somebody ram one into another one is like sacrilege. It's like, oh, how could these fucking sub 25-year-olds in this universe afford a bumper replacement?
That's
Just
a good
like
point.
just casually.
Well, you know, I mean, in the heat of the moment, you're a little emotional. I fucked up. I crashed a car when I was emotional before. My girlfriend just broke up with me. You never know.
Fuck.
That happened twice.
So yeah, when you're heartbroken and scorned, don't get behind the wheel.
Yep, pretty much.
So anyways, they assume the car ramming him is Frank, because Frank's a fucking psychopath and that's the kind of thing he does, but it just turns out that it's Sandy's, I guess now ex-boyfriend, is some football player.
Some football players, some jocks are trying to get him.
From high school, yeah, some mean jocks are trying to get him, trying to rough him up.
Exactly. And fucking after dealing with Frank and all the shit that he's been through, Jeffrey doesn't seem too scared.
No. I mean, he already had his body, like, absolutely worked by, like, a true psychopathic criminal.
But as this confrontation is going down, Dorothy comes running out of the building naked and beaten.
Oh, severely battered.
And this is an interesting part of the story because in the documentary I watched on David Lynch, this exact thing happened to him when he was a child. He was outside, his mom was there. Some naked woman came running out of a house for help, and it deeply traumatized him. He said before that, his whole world was nothing but Pleasantville, basically. And then when that happened, it kind of shattered the illusion, like, oh, there is evil in the world, and there's also fucked up, unexplainable shit as well. I don't know if he ever did find out the true story behind that, but that exact scene is a recreation of what happened to him as a child.
It's a fucked up scene, man.
That's fucked up. That's earth shattering if you're a kid.
Yeah, 100%. So anyways, the jocks, like, back the fuck off. You know, this is, like, too heavy of a situation for their...
They're like, oh, sorry, I didn't know you knew this naked abuse chick.
Yeah, I didn't know. It's like, what didn't you know? You didn't know when you pulled me over to whoop my ass there'd be a battered woman waiting for us at that exact location?
Exactly. You'd be implicated in some sort of...
So they fuck off, you know, they will go on their way. Apparently the football player doesn't care that Jeff's about to maybe bang his girl anymore. And they kind of like rush Dorothy inside. And, you know, at this point, Dorothy's like maybe having a very justifiable mental breakdown.
She was always fucking bad shit.
Yeah, no doubt.
But this is an interesting scene
It's
because...
the hottest part about her.
Well, absolutely.
Good given.
This is an interesting scene because Sandy's mom is there. And she's like, oh, what's wrong? I'm gonna get a blanket for you. And then fucking Dorothy's just like, he put his disease in me.
Oh yeah, she's crying. She confesses her love for Jeffrey.
She says, I love you. Why don't you love me?
Why don't you love me?
He put his disease in me.
So,
which is an awkward moment.
We got the order a little fucked up there again. They say that, and then Sandy's mom decides now's a good time to get this nude woman who's been in her living room for 5 minutes some kind of garments.
Sure, I mean, she's invaded your home, let her feel vulnerable and naked for a while.
That's the price of entry.
All right, you got some weird rules, but okay.
So, anyways, they call an ambulance and get her.
And the ambulance is a Ghostbusters car painted like an ambulance.
Well, I think those were ambulances back then.
In the 80s, really? Fuck, we've come a long way.
Well, yeah, I mean that's like where they got it for in Ghostbusters, right? Like the old ambulance.
Basically, it looked like a hearse with a siren on top.
Yeah. So an important note: Dorothy refers to Jeffrey as her secret lover, which before being whisked away to the hospital, and that obviously
Doesn't fly with Sandy.
no, it doesn't go over well.
Sandy cries for like fucking an hour. Then the next scene, she's literally on the phone with Jeffrey, like, I forgive you.
Yeah, and like, I mean, I'm not saying you and I are scoundrels, but like, we've lived some life, and we've I've been in a situation where I've made bad choices with relationships.
We know.
And it doesn't go like that, man. You don't just call and they're like, I forgive you, like the first line. No way.
Unless they're particularly just sad and lonely.
Again, Sandy and Jeff haven't even fucked, so they don't even have like that clingy post-coital connection to one another yet. This is solely flirting heavily. And somehow this woman takes him right back into her arms.
Good for him, man.
That's a male fantasy if I've ever fucking heard it. Like,
absolutely. I will say this about Jeffrey. He makes a lot of bad decisions.
Oh yeah, constantly.
And suffers literally zero consequences.
None other than getting
bad decisions.
Other than getting his ass whooped and maybe butt fucked by Frank. Possibly.
Well, yeah. I mean, the fact that he cries the next day, that tells you all you need to know about what may or may not have happened.
It certainly solidified my opinion of what the story is.
And I will edit that Wikipedia page as
Dude,
soon as I can.
You do it, I do it. We'll take shifts. Make sure it sticks. Could do this all day. So after Sandy takes back Jeffrey with very little objection, questions, or tribulations on his end to, redeem himself, Jeffrey asks Sandy to tell her father about like all that he's discovered about this crime syndicate that Frank's running. And returns back to Dorothy's apartment, solo dolo. And when he gets there, opens the doors and discovers that Dorothy's husband is dead. He's had a bullet put into his noodle through the center forehead area.
This part's pretty weird, yeah. And you see that he's missing the ear.
Yeah, the ear is gone.
And then the yellow man is also there. But he's dead, but he's standing on his feet, which is another surreal element of this film.
Yeah, so you can like see that his gourd was perforated.
He actually has brains like leaking out of his skull.
Yep.
But he's just standing on his feet.
Exactly. So like through the police scanner, so Jeffrey like tries to leave, and on his way down sees the well-dressed man who's this kind of other backdrop character that's been spotted with the yellow man over at Frank's drug castle.
Sure, but he immediately realizes it's actually Frank.
Yeah, it's just Frank with some like a wig and fake mustache on.
But the first time they saw the well-dressed man, was it Frank? Or was it actually a different person?
It was always him. It was just him in disguise.
I see.
So, anyways, he sees Frank is coming. He runs back up the stairs, drops his keys at the door like a total FUD. Total FUD.
Fuck up.
Yeah, how are you going to drop the fucking keys? But gets inside, locks the doors, throws a chain lock on it for whatever good that's gonna do.
Then hides in the closet like he always does, like a little bitch.
Not yet. No. Remember, he
does say some
goes
shit.
He goes to the back room and tries to radio the Sandy's father, the police chief.
He takes the police radio from the dead yellow man.
Exactly, and the gun.
Tries to call for help when he realizes it's not coming. When he realizes that it's not coming.
And that Frank also has a radio.
Yes. Then he spreads misinformation.
Yep. Classic move.
Classic
Says
move.
I'm hiding in the back room.
And then he hides in the closet in the front room.
His spot.
That's his he's marked his territory in there.
It's his masturbatory territory. So, anyways, Frank comes in, does some more general crazy shit, as one would expect. Goes back to the back room because he thinks he hears the walkie-talkie back there, and that's where he's expecting Jeffrey to be. Yep. He's not there. Comes back out and starts moving in on the closet that Jeffrey likes to hide in.
Yep.
And basically opens the door, and Jeffrey's already got the yellow man's revolver pointed right at his face. And Frank gets his gourd pop too.
Yep.
Pink mist, baby.
Gets him. Right in the head.
Yep. And then, like seconds later, Sandy's father and Sandy burst in. And, that's kind of like the resolution to, I guess, the main plot line of all of this.
Sure, yeah.
So the next scene, though, is like a pan out from the inside of Jeffrey's ear as he's
That's
lounging.
interesting because the camera slowly zooms out from inside of his ear as though I think this is symbolic of this is like a bad dream personally, because it's almost saying, all right, we're out of his head. And after this, the whole tone of the movie changes, right?
Yeah, it's like, you can interpret it that way, or you can interpret it as a more linear plot, and it's just like Jeffrey's a rubber ball. He bounces back from everything, and life turns out perfect for him. I think it's
both,
Yeah.
But it does go back to the dream that Sandy said earlier. Sandy said, I had a dream where the whole world went dark and there were no robins. Shortly after this pan out from his ear, you see a robin land on the window.
He says hi to his father. His father's only speaking role. We mentioned that earlier.
Yeah. Is his father okay?
Yeah, his dad's up and walking around at that point.
Does he seem like he ever had an injury?
Tough to say. He's at a distance. He's like over at a patio table.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
It is curious.
I have to think about that one some more.
But then you see a robin land, a blatantly animatronic robin lands on the windowsill. Clearly a weird robot or claymation or something.
Automaton?
Well, an automaton has free will.
Yeah, that's fucking wrong.
But I do enjoy the word automaton.
Yeah, I was trying to sound smart. But yeah, this thing's got
the robins come back just like in her dream.
With one of those beetle cockroach things.
Eating a beetle, which the beetle in my mind symbolizes the darkness.
Yep.
It's like, oh, the light has returned.
Kind of like Sandy coming out of the fucking darkness, that's like the kind of like force of good and light in her life.
When you first meet Sandy, she literally comes out of the darkness.
Yeah.
Into the light. So, I mean, that's basically also the turning point of the whole film. But, I mean, there's a lot of interpretations out there. Clearly, there's themes of Oedipus complex and other just depraved
light
shit.
And dark, sadomasochism,
all the things David Lynch is into.
Of course, noir, surrealism.
Which, not to get totally off the point, but the midget from Twin Peaks?
Yeah. I don't think you're allowed to say midget, but yeah.
You know the little person from Twin Peaks?
Yeah, the vertically disadvantaged person from Twin Peaks.
Yes, the vertically disadvantaged person. That guy's a fucking nutter. Because, did you hear what happened to him?
No.
In the new season of Twin Peaks, 20 years later, they did not recast him. And it's because he demanded too much money. And David Lynch said, look, our budget doesn't allow that. So then he slandered David Lynch all over social media, saying, oh, David Lynch raped his daughter. And all this other fucked up stuff. Which there is no evidence to suggest that any of it's true. This guy has just lost his mind. And he's also in that same midget's in the show Carnival. Did you ever see that?
I did. Original big HBO series.
Yes.
Pretty much. That and like 6 Feet Under.
A fantastic HBO series.
Yep, 1 season, right?
2.
Got 2 out. Yeah, same with Rome.
I never saw Rome.
Rome was good. But yeah, in summary, at the end, interpretations aside, more literal plot line, Jeffrey and Sandy appear to be... They're still finally there. I'm sure they do. We don't see it on set, but as I said earlier, the real value of Lynch films is getting what the director's trying to get you to see, but not at the surface. And they
Absolutely.
They boned like horny, depraved animals. And Dorothy is reunited with her son. So, although her husband was brutally murdered by a drug kingpin, her son has returned to her, and that is sort of a happy ending.
It's a happy ending overall. I mean, everyone's good at the end. Only the bad guys die.
Yeah.
Except maybe Dorothy's husband. But...
Oh, yeah, and Frank's crime syndicate all got wasted in a shootout. Although we don't actually see a whole lot of them die. We see a lot of cops die. We see a lot
of cops shooting at nothing.
Yeah, shooting at like the topmost window pane of
that's like warehouse. The lowest budget shootout I've ever seen.
I've seen worse, but it wasn't. They didn't put most of the money into it. That's for damn sure. And that concludes our kind of covering. Not even kind of. That concludes our covering of Blue Velvet.
Fully covered.
This is a good episode. It's a tough episode. David Lynch is tough to really break down. It's kind of like English teachers in high school, like, telling you, like, oh, the artists or the writer's use of blue wallpaper is indicative of deeply repressed hatred towards his mother, and it's like,
I don't want to read the Scarlet Letter. Fuck this.
Yeah, I mean, the fucking Scarlet Letter. Oh my god.
There's a lot of symbolism.
Leave it to Nathaniel Hawthorne to make adultery boring as fuck. And that is my stance on the Scarlet Letter. But I mean, yeah, there's so many ways to interpret it, and there's a lot of depth to it. I hope you guys enjoyed our discussions around it. As always, please like, subscribe, comment, and if you've got fan mail, suggestions, want to see if you can get us to negotiate down our OnlyFans page rates, email us at...
To be clear, our OnlyFans pages are separate.
They are, but
it's not our OnlyFans page. Just to be totally clear.
No, we've got separate ones. And, we are willing to do a group discount, but they're separate. They're two separate entities. But if you got any of the above, please email us at faroutflixpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear your feedback, input, suggestions.
Let us know, drop a comment, hit subscribe, hit like, do all the things that all the bullshit wants you to do.
Yeah, like the same shit that every YouTube video asks you to do at the end. Please.
Exactly.
Please.
Support us. This is free.
Yeah, we are deeply in the red on this podcast as of right now.
Exactly. We're in the negative a lot of things were consumed in the making of this podcast. That shit isn't free.
You can't run a fucking motor with no gas, man. You know, you gotta you gotta have the supplies.
Exactly. You know what to do. And until next time, this is Braden and Andrew signing off from Far Out Flicks. Goodbye.